Hi, my name is Briana. I'm from Ontario, California, and today I am doing my UPEACEx talk on the inner game and the importance of holding space for yourself, healing past stories and acknowledging it in order to be able to radiate peace out into the world. Hi guys, it is an honor to open up UPEACEx, and I'm here really humbly. I haven't told a lot of these stories before, and part of the way that I work and part of the way that I find my ability to relate to people from different places and in different contexts is through storytelling. So I'm going to start with a story of the eagle and the condor. There is an Amazonian philosophy and prophecy that says the eagle and the condor will fly together someday. And the eagle represents the mind, the intellect, the consciousness, the eternal connection with Tata Inti, Father Sky, Spirit I Am. As the Pachamama Alliance has shown us, this is something that pervades Amazonian thought. The condor, which is considered the south or the heart, is also a predator of the sky. And wherever these two birds live in a similar area, they won't fly in each other's zones because they're both predators and they don't want to overstep their boundaries. It's kind of known that the eagle and the condor don't fly together. In this prophecy that came about between 1,000 and 500 years ago, depending on where you're at in the Amazon, it says that the eagle and the condor will fly together. And that in this time, the heart and the intellect, or the mind and the intellect, will combine with the heart and the body in order to bring about the new age for humanity. And the signs that this is happening are that people are starting to ask questions about the mind and about technology in places that were mostly for the heart and body, and places where it were mostly about the mind and intellect are starting to look more for the heart for guidance. So why is this relevant to us? Well, in my journey, in my personal story that I'm going to talk about a little bit, it's about facing our fears. And what does it really mean to confront our fears? And what is a fear that's inside of us? And how does that manifest in the world outside of us? What is it about our story, the way we were raised, the ideas that we have, the beliefs that were formed that create these repeat patterns of fear that leave us feeling something more like this? I want to go through a little bit of my personal story today about how I've overcome these things, and some of which I'm still struggling to overcome, and talk a little bit about the resolution that I feel that has helped me get to a place where my eagle and condor are flying a little bit more equally. Go ahead. So I was born from two parents, Randy and Susie Cavion. I was born on November 29th in 10 days, 1985. They got married 2 years earlier. This was right after my mother threw up during her wedding day. She was really nervous. And so she looks a little sick there. You can change to the next slide. And this is me as a baby. I was a really happy child. I'm the oldest of 4 girls. And part of my journey has been knowing that from a young age, I had a really bright light. I had a really strong sense of self, a really powerful personality. I was the baby who would walk into the space and be on the table ready to perform and look at the song I just learned. So that this light also at a certain stage started to attract difficulties and challenges in order to help me become the person that I am today. These are my sisters. I'm the oldest of 4 girls, April, Heather, and Chelsea. Typical Southern California family. We have this beautiful presence. There's a lot of joy and laughter, a lot of blonde hair, a lot of beach trips. All of them surf but me. All of them play soccer but me. So there's a lot of just this Southern California vibe. And we take Christmas pictures every year as well. And people ask us if we don't send our Christmas pictures to them, they're wondering where are the Christmas pictures. So I want to talk a little bit about the dark side of growing up in Southern California and what the challenges were for me as a woman in that area. I was very sensitive from a young age and a dancer from a very young time. And when I was 14, I started an addiction called bulimia. And this addiction spiraled out of control pretty quickly. And part of what I was dealing with now that I've started to deconstruct my story is what it is that I felt that I should be and where it is that I saw myself. And this gaping hole that I felt every time I looked in the mirror, which was multiple hours a day because I was dancing. And so I developed this internal addiction to hating myself as well as an external addiction to having a action or a ritual, if you will. I'll talk a little bit more about ritual towards the end.
But this ritual became a way for me to deal with this space or this self-hatred that I started to develop between what it is that I thought I should be and where it is that I actually was. And what that meant for me was a lot of time in silence. So a lot of my younger years were spent not expressing my emotions. And as I started to deconstruct this, it was the funniest thing because I would do this addiction, I would have my pattern if it was really horrible. Like I had a horrible day, I would binge, which means to eat a lot, and then I would purge, which means to force myself to throw up. Horrible day, totally, you could totally preempt that. I would also do it if I had a really awesome day. It's as though my emotional range couldn't reach on either side. If it was super awesome too, I didn't have the capacity to deal with it. Next slide. And I constantly dealt with this concept of not being good enough. And this showed up not only with my body. This showed up big time in my academics. I graduated #2, not good enough, with a 4.8 GPA, not good enough. In the top 90% of my SATs, not good enough. With full ride scholarship to a liberal arts school, not good enough. And it became this internal mantra that somehow I wasn't good enough. Now, there were other areas that I was shining in. I was one of the top dancers in my county. I had straight A's. I really loved my family. And so I had this exterior that I was presenting and this interior that I was living. The reason why I bring this up, too, is because a lot of times people who are drawn towards service with others, one, have something that they need to serve within themselves. That ultimately we are looking back on our past, a part of us that has been abandoned or not fully served in some way, and so we're looking to do that in the world. #2, a lot of times that service can start to put a scab on top of a wound that still has the crap down inside. And so what I want to offer today is not just telling my story of a pretty horrible addiction, but also offer a space where you can look at possibly anything in your past that wants some space. I'm not a healer. I don't claim to know something more than anyone else. What I do know is that space and acknowledgement can change everything. That most of the time what these parts of ourselves that have been left behind or disregarded want is just a space to exist, is just a space to be okay. So let's go to the next one. So like I was saying, all this time I was getting a lot of accolades. That I was getting like, oh, Briana, she's the straight A student. Oh, Briana, she got into this school, and she's on this, and she's on that, and she does this, and she speaks that. And I started to get the overachievement award, I like to call it. That the more that I achieved, the more it fed this idea that I could be aggrandized in this way, and that I was feeding my addiction in another. Go ahead and change it. And then in my solitary moments, were the hardest. And so when I talk about meditation in a little bit, I want to talk about the power of a relationship with yourself. That sometimes, not always, but sometimes slowing down and actually seeing the way that I would talk to myself or seeing the way that I would treat myself felt more like this. Like I was a menacing monster out to get myself when it was dark. And so what is it that we need to do, that I needed to do for my psyche, for my process, in order to even start to address what is authenticity? I was talking a little bit in class today about integrity, that inner peace is actually having integrity, that what I feel and what I say and what I do have a relationship, and that they acknowledge each other. And with an addiction, or even with addictive thinking about self-hatred, I was not in integrity in my full actions. The next one. So then I discovered yoga, which I thought was going to be the lifesaver. I found yoga. I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be able to do all these crazy postures and sit in meditation for hours. And I'm just going to meditate away my addiction. It's going to be fabulous. The thing about yoga and the thing that I discovered was that it's a lot of fun and it has a lot of benefits and can bring me to certain places. But unless one is ready and willing to offer space to that part of themselves, no matter what you do, the brain will take it and hijack it. I continued my addiction until 2 years ago. 26th birthday was the last time that I physically forced myself to vomit. It's really intense to say that into a space. So even having yoga as an ally, what it did allow me to do was to start to look at the way my body was feeling over time, what it would feel like after I had this addictive pattern, and what was it that my relationship to myself and relationship to my breath really started to come out fully. So as we're sitting here, I want to just teach you guys something that has helped me a lot. Get both feet on the ground. And just feel as much of your feet as you can on the earth, whatever that means to you. And close your eyes for just a second. And breathe in the nose and out of the mouth. And in the nose and out of the mouth. And in the nose and out of the mouth. And just feel your feet as you continue to breathe. And feel your body. And if you can, feel the slight heartbeat in your chest. Gently open your eyes. And this was the piece of yoga that I was missing. The part of yoga that I was really getting was the physical side of things. The part of yoga that I was missing was the heart. Part of yoga that I was missing was the union. The whole meaning of the word yoga in Sanskrit is to yoke, to connect. And I was missing the part where I was connecting my body with my heart, with my mind, with my bigger purpose. And so what that meant for me is in order to go on this journey, I had to face a few things. I had to come straight up into what it really means, not just to be a perfect yogi, but also what it means to start to go into a deeper place. So I did Vipassana meditation, and I thought that this would take me to the next level. Vipassana meditation is a practice where you're 10 days in silence. And I did it the first time I came to Costa Rica, so 4 years ago was my first Vipassana meditation. And if you want to bring anything up about anything that you don't know about, try to be quiet for multiple days at a time. Day 3, I thought I was going to go crazy. And the whole time I was reliving different experiences in my life where I had either messed up or didn't understand or wasn't good enough or why had I not had it figured out yet. And on day 4, something shifted. And it's this shift that I want to call the eagle and the condor, or this place where the mind and the heart start to meld. And the feeling in my body was one of literally my chest felt bigger. My stomach felt like it could have more air. And I felt this sense of balance, this sense of dual flying that came from a different place. Now, I'm not suggesting that Vipassana meditation is for everyone, but it gave me a taste. It gave me a physical, felt experience of something that I wanted more of in my life. I wasn't able to maintain it when I wasn't meditating 10 hours a day, so that's not my suggestion to all of you. But what did happen after this was I was in a really funky car accident. This was not the car accident I was in, by the way. I just couldn't find any pictures from my car accidents. I was in 2 car accidents. I applied to UPeace in 2009. In 2010, I was on my way to come here, and I was T-boned on a mountain highway. And at that time, hospital visits and different tests, and long story short, my bank account was drained because I didn't have any insurance. And I'm sitting there, a former yoga teacher, a former dance teacher, unable to really move my body. I'm a practitioner of yoga. I meditate. Like, wait a second. Like, shouldn't the world be giving me something good? There's this whole karma thing. Like, I'm giving this goodness into the world. I should be getting something back. I'm doing this yoga work, and I'm going to go to UPeace and do this thing. I should be getting something back. And it was actually the car accident that had me start to question, okay, what is it really at the root of this achieving, really at the root of me needing to go to UPeace? What is really at the root of me needing all this stuff outside of myself to tell me that I'm okay? It took me getting into a much more serious situation than just a bound yoga pose to wake me up. And when I did have this car accident, it took me about a year to actually start to have a wake-up call. During that first year after my car accident, I had never experienced anxiety in my life before. Up until this time, I'd been an overachiever with a hidden addiction that no one knew about. I was professional at keeping it cool in front of people. And my car accident, for some reason, jolted me so much that I would walk into a crowd space like this, and if there were more than 5 or 6 conversations going on, my nervous system would start to shake. My body would physically start to shake, and I felt like something heavy was sitting on my chest. And I felt it a little bit before this time too, because I knew I would be talking about this. And so I started to have this experience of what was identified as anxiety. And I hated that word. I got so upset when the psychologist said, oh, it's an anxiety attack. I was like, no, 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 you don't understand. I'm having a heart attack. I'm having a physical stroke. They're like, no, 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 it's an anxiety attack. And then all of these memories of friends and even family members who'd had anxiety attacks in their lives that I'd written off as just them not being strong enough in the mind came back to me, and I developed like kind of this space of, oh my gosh, like the mind is incredibly powerful. Not only is the mind incredibly powerful, the subconscious mind, the part that I don't control, controls me. Holy shit. Like, I need to get a hold of this in some way. So I started researching what are ways that we can control our subconscious mind. What are ways that we can tap into our subconscious mind? And that's when I stumbled upon, next one. No, not that one. No, not that one. Oh, we'll leave it there for a second. That's when I stumbled upon neuro-linguistic programming. This is me as Frida Kahlo. Has nothing to do with neuro-linguistic programming, but that was my housemate at the time. So I started studying neuro-linguistic programming, which is neuro, the brain, linguistic, words, programming, how they change it or how they put a program in. What is it that you say and repeat and ask questions? How does that program your brain? And what can we do to those questions in the way that you talk yourself, alter them in order for you to reprogram your mind? Not just so that you're doing something over and over again, but so that you can live your life without having to remember to be different. Because by this time, even though I had stopped the addictive behavior of binging and purging, my self-talk, my monologue to myself was still not very pretty. So I wanted to find a way that I could reprogram myself without having to remember to be different. Now, what I wasn't told at this time was to really go into the root issue, to really ask the question of inner peace, to really look at who it is that I am and how I'm showing up in the world. It's an uphill climb. It is not an easy journey. It is not a yogi sitting by the beach. It is not a beautiful picture. It oftentimes looks more like it's a battlefield, where you're battling the insides of yourself and anything that has been suppressed in order for you to be safe. There have been multiple moments in all of our lives where our brain did not think it was going to survive, whether because we were in actual war zones or because our young self interpreted that what was happening was a threat to our survival. And that could be anything from actual gunshots going on outside to a baby crying 30 seconds too long without having its bottle. The brain codes the same way when we're at a young age. So in this room, I just want to take a moment and acknowledge that we all have a trauma. That we all have a space that our brain is still working from, that long ago and far away, we weren't sure that we were going to survive. And at times when we get really scared, and at times when that is triggered, it can come up, and we're responding from that very young place. And we're responding from a place where we still feel that that threat is something alive in our system. So even as someone who's done work on herself, and whoever has been working on their own inner peace and self-reflection, I really honor that, and just honor any possibility that that's something that could still come up for you. The reason why I decided to do this talk today was not only because this is something very near and dear to me, and the inner game is the territory that you can master. The inner game is the place where you can start to know yourself so well that you can see yourself reflected in others. That when I get to know my own traumas and when I get to know that own place within me that's very, very afraid, I can have empathy for someone who's yelling at me from that place. That there's an ability to connect with people in their joys, in their highest highs, and in their lowest lows. That understanding my own trauma is actually a way to expand my nervous system capacity, that I can handle more. So that when I stand up in front of the UN and I'm delivering a speech about inner peace, I can handle the response and I don't have to become numb to it. When I'm walking into a situation, I have an emotional response to something violent that's happening, I can allow myself to have that response and know that I'm not going to break down. peace areas, NGOs, individuals in government and non-government organizations have just as high rates of alcoholism, drug abuse, domestic violence as pretty much the rest of the demographic of the world. And that's why I'm talking about this subject. Because I feel that unless we do our work for ourselves on the inside, unless we take responsibility for what it is that has happened, whether it was our fault or not, but start to acknowledge, really honor the places where we could have quit, where we could have very easily become a statistic because of where we're from, or who we're with, or what country we're from, or the color of our skin. We could have all been statistics, but we chose to be here instead. But it's important to honor those points when we could have been statistics and allow them space to exist as well. That they are just as much a part of our story, that it's crucial for us to claim them and share them. That our story is a critical part of why we're at UPeace. Because if we're not sharing our story, we're not sharing our humanity. We're not sharing the actual thing that connects us. Theory and ideas and systems are great, that's one part of it. But who are you? What is it that you have overcome? What is it that you said yes to in your life? What is it that you had to say no to? And what is it that you're doing now to give space to all of that? I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit. What I want to talk about right now is one of the paths that I have found for healing, and it's called a sacred circle. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a circle. A sacred circle is a moment or a place where you decide to call in something that matters to you in order to honor it. And that can be a person, it can be an event or memory in your past, it can be something that's going to happen in the future. It's just a moment for you to honor, recognize, and give space to something that has happened or will happen. This is the work that I've been doing for about the past 5 years with individuals and groups in yoga settings, but mostly for myself. I like to say that I was helping people, but every time I get to say these words out loud, I get to have another completion with the millions of versions of myself that are along this timeline in both directions. Don't even get me started on family lineage stuff. So go ahead and switch to the next. So what do we do with these fears? What looks like something huge and horrible is usually oftentimes a younger version of ourselves deciding to do what they need to do in order to survive. So Ram Dass, who is a teacher, a yogi, says, the gift you offer another person is just your being. And I want to offer that to you. The best gift that you can offer yourself, any version of yourself, is just being with it. Is allowing yourself to see what's really there. Allowing yourself to be with what's really there. And to breathe through it until it feels complete. Next one. Using our brain, using our mind, using this great neurotechnology that we have in order to unite with the emotions of our heart is what I believe is going to help us each balance as individuals. And whatever emotion, whatever intensity that we start to feel, we can use the balance of our heart and mind in order to navigate, in order to soar. One more story to finish us up. In 1999, the California condor was declared endangered, an endangered species. And what scientists did at the University for Berkeley is they started to team up baby little condor eggs with the California golden eagle. And so the golden eagle was taking care of these little condors, and it was really cute to see on TV, and I was so excited. And then in the last 5-6 years, the eagle, the golden eagle, and the California condor are flying in the same territories for the first time ever in human history. So I just believe that it is possible for us to unite whatever story it is that we've been telling, whatever our life trauma, not only in this room, but for the planet, whatever difficulties, whatever ugliness, whatever beauty that we've experienced, we can use our hearts and our minds to go in and help restore and create balance. So I leave you with the prophecy of the eagle and the condor. I say thank you so much. Namaste.
How to connect.